All the rolling go, where am I to go? Meet Johnny, where am I to go? For I'm a young and a sailor lad, and where am I to go?
Hello, and welcome to Where Am I to Go podcast. Today we are in CODY, Wyoming, at a place that I've been wanting to do a podcast at for quite a while. It's a place I've visited several times, but we are here at Old Trail Town. Now, CODY is where Buffalo Bill Cody settled and kind of created a town. We've got the Irma Hotel that is named after his daughter here that still is in operation and serves breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everybody has to eat at the Irma when they show up at CODY. We've done a podcast here a couple years ago at the Dug Up Gun Museum. And they also have a fantastic museum that is CODY Museum of the West or Buffalo Bill Historical Center. And it's a monstrous museum. There's 5 museums in one location, 30,000 square feet probably of museum space. It's a lot bigger than anything that I care to take on because I don't think I want to do a 5 or 6 or 7 hour podcast, which would be easy to do there. They also have a very large gun collection. But Old Trail Town is located out by the rodeo grounds, and CODY does have a rodeo every single night from Memorial Day through Labor Day.
Correct.
And it's just kind of an Old West town. There's a lot to do here. But at Old Trail Town, they've got a lot of buildings that they've moved in. They've got a lot of historical stuff from the area. And we are here talking with Sylvia today, who is going to take us on a tour of Old Trail Town and talk to us about the different buildings and what they have here. Welcome to Where Am I to Go podcast, Sylvia.
Thank you, Loren.
Okay.
Glad you're here.
Tell us a little bit of history about the Old Trail Town.
Well, Bob Edgar, archaeologist and historian, started collecting buildings back in 1967. The first building on site was the Arlen Cabin, and he actually lived in that for a period of time until... Go ahead.
No, here on this site?
Yes, yeah, the Arlen
okay.
Cabin is right across the street from us.
Okay.
And he lived there until he built the larger residence, which now half of that is our boardroom and offices.
Okay.
So from that point, from the Arlen Cabin, he just kept collecting buildings. He would either know where they were himself and talk to landowners, or landowners would begin to call him and say, hey, I've got this old building. I think it's got some history to it. You want to come and look at it? If it did have history to it, Bob would negotiate with them. Mostly it was, get it off my property and it's yours. So
that's pretty good negotiation.
Yeah. And at that point, he would take the buildings down on site, the original site, and move them here to Old Trail Town and reconstruct them.
Now, he didn't only move buildings, right?
He moved ghosts with him. Yeah.
He moved ghosts. He's also got a cemetery here that has several notable beings from the area, and also Jeremiah Johnson.
Yes, we just had Jeremiah Johnston's 50th anniversary of the reburial. He was reburied here June 8th, 1974. So
and Robert Redford showed up to that,
he was pallbearer.
Okay.
Because the movie had just come out a few years before that.
Right.
So we have pictures of that in one of our cabins.
And who are the other notable people that are buried here?
Bill Gallagher, Belle Drury, we call her the woman in blue, and Blind Bill Houlihan are buried out there. There's also Vetter, White, they're trappers, they're hunters, historical figures from the Wyoming area.
Okay.
The funnest stories are about Drury and Gallagher and Houlihan, because they have a connection with Rosie's Roadhouse and Brothel, with the Hole in the Wall Cabin, with the McNally Cabin.
And they were all in Arlen, which was the Arlen Cabin that he first brought in.
No.
No?
No. That Arlen Cabin was actually more northeast of town.
Oh, really?
Rosie's Roadhouse is from the Meeteetse area.
Okay.
And Hole in the Wall, of course, is from the KC area, Hole in the Wall cabin of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Butch Cassidy also frequented the River Saloon that we have over here across the street.
Okay.
So there's a lot of connections between these. Gallagher and Houlihan were murdered just outside and inside of Rosie's Roadhouse that we've just reconstructed.
Oh, really?
Rosie was one of her girls
Okay.
who was going with Gallagher at the time. He was a very jealous, nasty man. In fact, his obit said the world is so much better off without him.
They don't usually put those in obituaries.
No, this is just real blunt and to the point. Will Wheaton came to town, and this was Arland, the town, which is northeast of current Meeteetse. Will Wheaton came to town, and Bell took a liking to him.
Okay.
Made Gallagher jealous. He held him at gunpoint at one time, kind of a kidnapping, held him in a cabin, wouldn't let him go. They finally got out of that. A little while later, Bell Drury asked Bill McNally for the loan of a pistol. And that pistol then ended up being used to murder Gallagher outside of Rosie's.
Okay.
Blind Bill Houlihan was going to avenge his best friend's death, and before he could do that, he was murdered inside of Rosie's Roadhouse, sitting at the table, shot in the back.
Okay. Wow. By? Who shot him?
We don't know.
Oh.
But Will Wheaton and Bell Drury were arrested on suspicion. Bell Drury was let off, but Will Wheaton did go to prison for the murder of those guys. He was in prison for about 9 years, I think.
Oh, wow.
He was let out, went to Utah, became an upstanding citizen.
Okay.
Before he was released from prison, within a couple of years, Bell Drury was poisoned at Rosie's, and she was picked up. She was trying to walk to the town of Arland, and she was picked up, and all she could say was that Tahanas doped me, poisoned her, and Tahanas was another girl of Rosie's.
Okay.
And so they took Bell Drury to Arland, where she then died of poisoning, and she was buried on the hilltop outside of Arland. Nobody really knew where Gallagher and Houlihan's bodies ended up, but not that many years ago, they were cutting a road through not too far from where Rosie's Roadhouse was, and they came across two coffins. And they could tell by the gunshots and by the patch over one of the skull's eyes that this was Gallagher and Houlihan.
Okay.
So Bob brought them to the old Trailtown Cemetery. We also brought Bell Drury from Arland to the cemetery, so they're buried in a row there.
Okay.
So we've got the place where all this took place. We've got the remains. We've got the hole in the wall, which Cassidy was involved. We've got the McNally cabin. We've got the River Saloon. So we've got all these entities back together again.
Okay. And Bob Edgar, the founder here, he was the one that kind of uncovered a whole lot of this history and story of what happened in the town of Arland,
Yes.
which was described as what everybody would consider the ultimate Wild West.
One of the worst towns.
Worst towns you could imagine. In fact, I think I read an excerpt out of a diary one time that said that there was somebody coming through and they told their wife and kids to get down in the wagon, don't look over the sides, you don't want to see anything that's going on in this town.
I can well imagine. That's where Rosie's brothel originally was in Arland. And she was what they consider the common law wife of Vic Arland, who created the town.
And now, is Vic Arland the Arland cabin, or is that another Arland?
No, same Arland. He was involved in the trading company, Trading Post. And then he went to Arland, created that town. He was murdered in Red Lodge, shot through the back through a window while playing poker, I believe. And at that point, Rosie knew her days were probably numbered there at Arland, so they picked up the cabin and moved it 7 miles southwest, southeast. of Arlen. And then she added on, so there's the roadhouse part where she served, she moved it right onto the new freight line that was going through. So she was at the junction. So she added the roadhouse, her bedroom, but then she still had the crib out back.
Okay. And if anybody wants to know more about the story of Arlen, we may talk more about it here. Bob Edgar and Clay Gibbons were fairly good friends, and Clay Gibbons has a podcast that he calls Sweet Smell of Sagebrush. And he has a couple of episodes detailing what happened at Arlen, and along with several other things. His podcasts are really good. So if you want a little bit more Wyoming history, Sweet Smell of Sagebrush is a good place to go.
Correct. And there's some books out there that Bob Edgar had written also. And the name just went out of my head.
Legend of a Brand.
There you go.
And the other one is, it's about the sheep lady. Why can't we think of it right now?
I don't know, but I'll get that to you. The
I think we just talked about it at Mad Dog Books down in Clearwater. We just did a podcast there a couple of weeks ago, and I think that we have that other book mentioned in there. I can't remember what the name of it is, but Legend of a Brand. These books it's really interesting. A lot of history books you can pick up for a dime or $1 or something like that, but these Bob Edgar books are so full of history about the Pitchfork Ranch and other areas around here that they're extremely expensive. If you can find them, they're usually $125 to $200 for the books, depending on whether they're signed or not, and some of that.
Right, and they're out of print.
Right.
So yeah, they are very valuable. But Bob, yes, he was the ultimate historian. He lived to research, always researched. He had so much in his head that, we're sorry we lost.
I was going to say, isn't that the case with so many old people, though? They die and you lose a whole history of
We've got
things.
We've got a lot in file, but just to talk to him was an experience in itself.
And I never did have that experience.
Yeah.
The closest I've gotten is Clay Gibbons, and and some of his stories are pretty good too. But he always gives credit, excuse me, he always gives credit to Bob Edgar for the Arlen stories and for several of the others that he does talk about. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about what you see when you first get here. When you first come, your admission's $12 a person, right?
$12 a person, $11 seniors.
Okay, and what about children?
6 and under are free.
Okay.
6 and over, $6. We do have group rates. A group of 10 or more people are $9 a person.
Okay, and when you first come up here, you see lots of, I would call them log cabins or wood structures that have been hauled in from different places that are authentic from the 1800s. Yes. And they've got a whole line of wagons. I'm guessing there's probably, 35 or 40 wagons here that are there's freight wagons.
And then on the back lot, the side street, we have a wagon barn that we'll go in there and you can see all of the other wagons too.
Okay.
When you first come into CODY, our admissions and gift store is a building from Marquette. Now Marquette was where the Buffalo Bill Reservoir is now.
Okay.
There's a town there. And when they built the dam, they flooded the town. So all structures, were basically out of there by the time they flooded it, of course. But this structure is from Marquette.
Okay. And Linda just looked up and found out that it's Lady of a Legend.
There you go.
We got Legend of a Brand and Lady of a Legend by Bob Edgar.
Thank you.
Nothing like having brain.
That's embarrassing. I don't.
Oh, it's horrible. I do it all the time. So then we come to our next cabin, and this is a carpenter shop.
This was brought from Cowley, Wyoming. Taggart, that's quite an old name here in the CODY, Lovell, Cowley area.
Okay.
And they donated this to Old Trail Town also. As you can see, there's an awful lot of tools in there yet.
A lot of carpenter tools.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
We've got planes and clamps and saws and vices and drills. Lots of cool stuff in there. And Cowley, Wyoming is probably 50, 60 miles from here? And it was
East of
first,
here, yep.
yeah, east of here, and it was first settled by Mormons, and then they did a major irrigation canal system,
Yes.
and so that's cool that you have this.
They have a lot of history, that family themselves. And this was Curley's cabin. This was on the Crow Reservation in Montana. Curley was George Custer's scout.
Oh, okay, an Indian scout. Yes.
Cool.
Oh, this is really neat. They've got it set up with a lot of different pictures. Now, are most of these of, well, you got one of Custer. Most of these are
Curley.
some of the, all of them are of Curley?
This is Curley. This one is not. Those two, and I don't know right offhand who they are, but these are probably some of his, cohorts too.
And he was one of only two, I think, that survived Little Bighorn.
Right.
Right. And then you've got a really neat stuffed eagle, golden eagle, in between some elk horns, bed, bear rug.
Yeah.
And most of the items in here were Curley's? Or?
Some.
Okay.
Of course, we've got the case display, and this was Curley's property.
Okay. And you've got a gun in there and an old saddle.
Can you imagine?
And when I say an old
saddle,
this is kind of like pre-McClellan, super high horns and just kind of an open space in between.
Yeah, this was an Indian saddle. Sometimes they were more decorated than this. Of course, is just rawhide. But can you imagine riding on that thing across the prairie?
I can't imagine riding on a McClellan, but some people say that they're comfortable. Oh, you've also got a really nice buffalo robe in here.
We have a lot of coats around CODY, and a lot of the stuffed birds, a lot of taxidermy. That's my friend, the bear. I have to roll him up every winter, so.
Well, CODY's always been known for hunting and that type of stuff.
Yes.
Theodore Roosevelt, I think, had visited CODY.
Yes.
And Buffalo Bill had his Wild West show that was kind of centered around here for a lot of years, so there were a lot of notable people.
Prince Rainier came here to
Annie
hunt.
Oakley? Yeah.
To hunt with Buffalo Bill up at Pawhuska.
Okay.
That just reminded me of something earlier you said, that CODY, the town of CODY was named after him. This area out here, from below the hill to across the highway, this was the original platted town of CODY City.
Oh, really? Okay.
It had streets named. It only had, I don't know, just a couple, maybe even one main street. Most of the buildings were probably just tent city at that time.
Right.
There were a few other wooden structures. But the railroad was clear over on the other side of what is now CODY, and the river was way over there. So there was water and there was transportation, but not here.
Right.
So the city ended up picking up and moving a few miles to the east.
That seems to have happened a lot back in the day.
It's like start a city and then discover where the water was.
Yeah, I know Thermopolis moved, Worland moved. I don't know what other, CODY. It's just kind of interesting that they just pack up a town and move it.
Yeah, and it's fun. We came across the original map with all the with all the streets, and it would have been a very large town.
Well, it's a nice sized town now, other than it's not right here.
Right. So this is the Morrison cabin. These were the sheep herders.
Okay.
And this is a very, for those of you who can't see, very small cabin, but they raised their children here.
Okay. And where was this set up at? It says it came from west
Mountain.
on the Oregon Trail.
Excuse me?
Okay. Copper Mountain, and that's on the south end of the Bighorn Basin.
Yeah.
Down by Thermopolis.
Yeah, and the story goes that when they would have to go out tend to the sheep, children were small, of course, so she'd tie them to the sagebrush so they couldn't wander off. So can you imagine that as a babysitter?
They didn't just have sheep herders out there taking care of them, huh?
No.
There's a snake in that bush.
And this is the homestead cabin, and this was on Monument Hill north of CODY.
Yeah, just across the road here.
You've got a lot of stuff in here. There's several saddles. There's several buffalo skulls.
Our famous two-headed calf.
You got, okay, I'm missing him.
It's down there by the
Oh, okay. I'm looking on the walls for mountings. They've got a full mounted two-headed calf. That's really cool. You've got some traps set up and a bed and shaps and an organ, old pump organ.
This has been this sort of display for quite a number of years. Over this coming winter, what we plan on doing is reconfiguring this. We've got some other collections that we'd like to bring in and make this more set up more as the cabin rather than just right now it's saddle displays and
Right. Harness.
tack displays. Yeah.
Yeah, this is you could stand in here and look for a long time, but you got to look down to see the two-headed calf.
The two-headed calf.
I missed it.
And then also, when school groups come, that's the two things we say to them. You know, look for the two-headed calf and the eight-legged lamb. So
Have I missed the eight-legged lamb in here?
we did.
Oh, well, I guess
It's
we're
back in the Morrison cabin.
Oh, we're going to go back into the Morrison cabin here and see an eight-legged calf.
Lamb.
Lamb.
See, look right.
Oh, geez. Wow, that is cool. It's got two front legs and
it's got
then a
some
whole herd of them on the back,
sticking
and
out
his
the back
tail
there.
kind of, is that a tail or is that a leg that's coming up over his back?
I think that's the leg coming up over the back.
And you got to look really hard to find it. This one here is kind of tricky. But
That's the challenge for the school kids.
when you see the Morrison cabin, you need to kind of look around it for a bit until you find that. That's fun.
So, yeah, it is a fun place for all ages, I think.
And taxidermy's been a big thing with CODY for a long time
Yes.
too.
Yeah, we have a lot of great shops here that do pretty amazing work.
Okay.
Wow, the guy was murdered.
And this is what his cabin looked like. Just this old buffalo hunter
Okay.
in here, Oliver Hanna. Jim White was murdered. Jim White's buried out here in our cemetery.
Okay. And he was murdered in the cabin or just at the camp?
No, he was murdered at camp.
And this cabin came from Shell, Wyoming, which is outside of Grable, Wyoming.
Right.
And sits right at the base of the Bighorn Mountains.
And Jim White was at the camp. Hannah went in for supplies, and when Hannah came back, he discovered Jim White had been murdered and everything taken.
Okay.
So he was, yeah.
Well, there's even a creek up there, I think, called White Creek.
Oh, yeah?
I think so. Well, there was a subdivision, they were talking about putting in a subdivision up there called White Creek.
But this is what basic cabins would look like. You know, a bed, a table, a chair, a stove, trunk for storage.
Just whatever you just.
And they're small.
Basic.
You know, this cabin's probably 16 foot long and 12 or 13 foot wide.
Yeah.
And that's what they lived in.
And
They
this-
must have spent most of their time outdoors.
Well, they did. And when they were indoors, in the wintertime, all you needed was a stove and blanket.
And this has some really cool pictures of buffalo, people skinning buffalo, skulls, and some of that on the walls. There's some nice buffalo hides, another buffalo hide coat, and really a lot of neat artifacts in there.
This is one of my favorite buildings. This is the Coffin School.
The Coffin School. Now, where was it at?
This was west of Meeteetse,
Okay.
Wood River area, Meeteetse. And it's called the Coffin School, Coffin, because Alfred Nauer, it was his cabin, and he had chopped himself in the leg while he was chopping wood. And, of course, no medical facilities. And it became inflamed, it got gangrene, and he died in the cabin.
Oh.
So that's why it's called the Coffin School.
And you guys have it set up as a school.
Yeah, it was used then as a school.
Okay.
And is set up as a school. Just last year, we found that wonderful skirt and blouse that looks just like a schoolmarm, so we put her in
Yes.
here.
And you've got some nice old posters on the wall about nature and language series and a picture of Abraham Lincoln. And how many stars are on the flag? I don't have time to count. But it's not a 50-star flag.
That's a 46-star
46, okay. And it's all set up with school books on the desks and everything else. Now, he died in this cabin,
He
and
died
then
in the cabin.
then they converted it to a school. So that must have made the kids all feel good, going to school in the morning
Yeah.
and knowing that they were sitting right where somebody died.
Yeah, hopefully they either didn't tell them or everybody was tougher back then.
I think they were, to be right honest with you. And this is the Shell store.
Uh-huh.
This is interesting.
This was brought, most of the log structures here, of course, were taken down and reconstructed. This one was brought intact
Okay.
from Shell on a trailer, and Bob Edgar, when they would go through town, would be up on the roof holding the wires away so they could get through town. Under the
Really?
wires, yeah. If you can imagine that.
Wow. And now this store is probably 14 foot, 15 foot wide, and 25 foot long.
Right, one of our larger structures.
And they've got a gunpowder container. Now that is cool. It's black, looks like it has a flip lid so that you could just take out a pound at a time.
And this is where the bullets then were kept. You could just,
Okay.
kind of like a gumball machine, you just
Right.
open it up and it gives you how many.
And they've got the old wooden boxes. They've got a wooden toboggan. They've got a lot of shoes, quilts, clothes, a couple of old scales. I think I saw another old scale. Yeah.
Well, that's a cheese cutter.
The cheese cutter for the
Scale.
rounds. And then just a whole lot of the old cans and stuff that had cocoa and soap and baking
was,
powder and that type of stuff.
A hat maker. Those were all his
Oh,
forms
yeah.
for cowboy hats and derbies and different types. We were just given that. It's a kerosene pump
Okay.
they used to have, filled with kerosene, and you could, get out of the way here, you could change the little pegs and then crank the handle and it would give you that much kerosene into your container.
Okay. Yeah, that is way cool. I don't know that I've ever seen one of those.
I had never
Kerosene
even heard of
containers.
one of those, and we were just given that by a Rawhide Johnson here in CODY.
Oh, okay. And Rawhide has stagecoaches.
Yes, he is a master wagon builder and
Right.
restorer. Yep.
So, yeah, this is really cool, this store. And then you've got a very nice moose here at the end. He greets you as you come in.
I was in here working one day, and this little boy and his family were in here, and he just thought that was hilarious that buffalo would run fast enough to run through the wall. He just, I don't know, his little imagination was just going wild. He was having fun.
And now we're walking on actual boardwalk to each one of these cabins. So this gives you the real authentic feel of being in an old trail town or an old cow town.
You walk along here with boots at night when nobody else is around. It's really kind of eerie.
And this is the Bonanza Post Office.
Bonanza is no longer in existence. It was in southern Wyoming, I believe.
Bonanza is towards Hyattville.
Yeah.
And it was a place that the oil was actually seeping out of the ground, and they would stop and oil their wagon wheels and stuff in Bonanza.
And what I understand, the only thing left is a small cemetery.
That's probably true. There's a lot of oil stuff up there as far as an oil field. That we've kind of driven around it a bit, and there's not much up there, but it is a location. If you're going between Manderson and Hyattville,
Okay.
it'd be off to the south side, and you could kind of go back on up in. But it was called Bonanza because of the oil,
Okay.
and it was just
I'm
seeping
learning
out of
so
the
much
ground.
from you.
No, I'm learning from you.
So this, for many, many years, this was just used as storage. We had, up until last year, the floor was covered with horns and skulls and different sorts of things. It's where we'd stored some cabinets and doors and that sort of thing. You could still look in
Right.
the windows, but
And
so
now, is
last year we completely gutted it, chinked it, got in more electrical, and then we were able to put in this doctor's office suite, which had been in the barn for years. People
Okay.
clear back in the corner. And then the post office bank here, that's from Emblem, Wyoming, which is
Okay.
just to the west of CODY.
And as you drive through Emblem, you'll see a sign that says population 10. But there is a post office there.
There is.
And
This was their old one.
okay, that is cool. Emblem's just kind of a wide spot on the road now. It used to be called Germantown.
Yes, it did.
Because the Germans settled in there real heavy, and they built a lot of mud houses around there. If you drive around the Emblem area, you can still see old mud houses or mud garages and some of that kind of stuff. Now, okay, now you've got this set up with a chiropractic table. What is this table right here? Is that a dentist or a...
No, this is all, he is a chiropodist and chiropractor.
Okay, now I've never heard of a chiropodist.
I hadn't either, but they work on feet. And some of his, we have his medicine cabinet over here, and some of the tools in there are just very frightening. So, you know, he would fix your feet, I suppose ingrown toenails, fallen arches. He has different patterns in there to make pads for your boots, that sort of thing. Yeah, so that, it looks like a dentist chair, but that's actually, he could lift up the foot part and work on your feet.
Wow.
And, of course, chiropractic table there. And the one in the back, that was also for the feet. You can see the stirrups there.
Wow, I've heard of reflexology, but never chiropodist.
Yeah.
That is interesting. And they've got the old sign from Dr. U. Sloniger.
Sloniger. He was an early CODY doctor.
Wow.
So, and we'll finish this cabin as we go. The cabinet in back there, we'll put small items that we don't really want out.
Right.
Touchable that we'll put in there. And just keep adding to it. And this is the hole in the wall cabin. From the hole in the wall.
It's actually from the hole in the wall.
This is the one, yeah.
Now, just as I'm a history buff. I love museums and all that kind of stuff. I've been to the hole in the wall. Yes. There's a tour that goes out every Memorial Day with Clay Gibbons. I've been to Bonanza. I've been to Shell. I've been to all these places, but you don't get to see the actual cabins or any of the actual things that were in Bonanza, let's say, or at the hole in the wall. The hole in the wall is now just a big open area. There's a couple of foundations and some teepee rings and some of that kind of stuff, but you don't get to see the actual cabins.
Right. If this had been left there, it probably would have just been one of the foundations that you see.
Exactly.
It would have just fallen into disrepair
and here it's all restored, put back together, has some actual artifacts.
Right, and that's the original floor. Sometimes we can't preserve the floor, but that's the original floor.
And this Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and several others, I'm sure Big Nose George, a whole bunch of them.
The Wild Bunch.
Had probably all been in this cabin at one point in time, planning their next train robbery or stage robbery or
playing cards.
Whatever they were going to do. And the hole in the wall is a real interesting place. I think a lot of people have a vision of it being like a tunnel or something like that. All it is a rock wall that extends probably 300 feet in the air and goes for probably, 300-400 miles.
Right, but
there's only one place in that whole wall that you can come down, and it's steep and rocky.
From the east side, from on top, you don't know any of that is down there.
Right.
And to come into it from the other side is... I don't know what it was like back then, but you can't hardly do it. You can't get to it from the
not easily.
Side, so.
And so it made the perfect place to hide out while they were able to go on their little forays out to do their robberies or their other deeds.
Right. And so we put up their reward posters in here.
Oh yeah, for Harry Longbaugh and Harvey Logan. The Wild Bunch, Butch Cassidy. You've got several pictures of trains and the hole in the wall gang by them.
That's the Wilcox robbery, one of the famous robberies. So, and the picture of the safe here, I'm sure you've probably been to the Territorial Prison Museum down in
No, I have not.
Well,
and you know why?
Podcast.
Because every time I go to Rollins, the Rollins one is always closed. And I haven't spent enough time in Laramie to be able to hit that museum, but they're both on my list.
That's the one you need to go to, because this is in their special room exhibit for Butch Cassidy and the Wild Bunch.
Okay.
They've got the actual safe down there. So
now, we did do the Territorial Prison in Deer Lodge, Montana.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just. Well, we've been to Rawlins, probably 6 or 7 times, and got out, and every doggone time that prison is closed.
Oh, shoot. I've never
And the
been to that one.
territorial one in Laramie, I just have not had the opportunity.
Yeah, they've done a really good job with that one.
We need to do some Southern Wyoming podcasts. We've spent a lot of time in the northern part, even in some of the eastern part, but we haven't covered a lot of. We
they've
done
got a lot of
Fort Bridger.
interesting things down there, Fort Laramie.
Yes, and then Tom O'Day. And this here's living quarters, part of the cabin. Again, you've got, what's that coat made out of? It almost looks like canvas, but it's got to be leather.
No, that's canvas.
That is canvas.
Just with a fur collar. We put a derby in here in honor of Butch Cassidy.
Butch Cassidy, because he always wore a little derby. Double barrel shotgun hanging on the wall. Just the way you guys have these cabins. Now, none of this was like this when I was last here. You guys have done a lot of work.
When were you last here? How many?
Probably 4 or 5 years ago. A couple of the cabins were set up, but it wasn't set up nearly like what it is now.
Jan Edgar, sister-in-law to Bob Edgar, became involved a lot longer ago than that, and she did a lot to actually furnish the cabins as they should have been.
Okay.
And she's gone now. She's passed away, but we've continued to try to improve and keep clean. We try to chink more so that the dust doesn't blow all through the buildings during the winter, because we close September 30th is our last day of the season.
Okay.
And then we go into the buildings and we cover the beds with plastic. We put all the perishables in totes so that everything possible is protected over the winter.
Okay. And now we're out here at the cemetery, and we're looking at Jim White buffalo hunting. There's a rock wall here, or rock headstone, I guess you could say, and he's sitting on top of the headstone with his gun and cross sticks so that he can get a nice accurate shot at his buffalo. And then we have Jeremiah Johnson, liver-eating Johnson. You guys need to look up some of the history on him, because he's a pretty amazing guy.
Yes.
And he's on his horse as a mountain man on top of the headstone here. Very nice.
That was created by local artist Feely,
Okay.
the bronze. And he's here because of a 7th grade class in Lancaster, California.
Okay.
Jeremiah Johnson had gone to the VA home out in California and died the next day. So he was buried out there. He had terrible arthritis, toward the end of his life. And
Probably from eating too much raw liver.
total myth. So anyway, this Try Robinson, 7th grade teacher, putting together a project for the kids, and he had told them the history of all of this, and they were just appalled that he was out there and not back here where he should be. And at that time, the VA cemetery was going to be moved because the freeway had to go through.
Oh.
So they took it upon themselves to get the remains here to CODY. And through a lot of letter writing, government contacts, the 7th grade class was appointed congressionally as his next of kin, so that they had the right to exhume him and bring him out here. They contacted Bob Edgar, and Bob said, if you can get him here, I'll pay for it.
Wow.
So they got him here and buried him, and that's, like I said, June 8th, 1974. And it was, of course, we didn't have all the buildings around here, but there was over 2,000 people came for the reburial, one of the biggest funerals in Wyoming.
Wow.
So that got a lot of international press.
And now he was actually in this area. He was he was a sheriff in
He was a sheriff in Red Lodge.
Yes, which is Red Lodge is what, another 70 miles, 80 miles from here or so.
Right, north of here. And
the trail went through Matiti and came right through Cody on up to Red Lodge.
And his cabin, I don't know if it's still there. I think it is. He had a cabin up around Red Lodge too.
Okay.
But we were fortunate in being able to bring him here.
That is way cool. And thanks for the 7th grade class.
Oh yes, we had at the 50th anniversary, just this past June 8th, we had Tri Robinson, the teacher.
Oh really?
One of the students here, and so they spoke to us.
Wow, that is so cool.
And then down here, further on, besides Jim White and Stillwell, Vetter. And then this is Gallagher, Blind Bill Houlihan, and Bell Drury.
And they were all buried pretty close together there in Ireland, right?
Bell was the only one that was in Ireland. Blind Bill and Gallagher, they were 7 or 8 miles south of there.
Oh, really?
And they were, nobody knew where they were until that little road was being dug through. And then they found the grave sites. So we brought them all back here together, and then just
for some reason I thought they were buried up on a knoll above, but
Bell Drury was.
Bell Drury, okay.
And they call her the woman in blue because she had on a dark blue dress with
and
little
Bob
white dots
Edgar, was it Bob Edgar that was the artist? Was he an artist also? And he did a painting of the woman in blue?
Bob is an artist, but his brother Larry Edgar is the Western artist that did the woman in blue, which we have hanging up here in Rosie's.
Okay. Now, as we're walking over here to Rosie's, you've got an outhouse with a moon and a little cow skull hanging on top. You've got a bathtub hanging, a galvanized bathtub hanging on the outside of Rosie's.
That cow skull is there in honor of Butch Cassidy.
Oh, really?
He came through Rosie's Roadhouse, and she served him rabbit stew.
Okay.
And he wasn't real thrilled with that. So he said he'd go out and get her some game. Well, the game didn't really look like an elk or a deer or anything, so she had some good beef for a while.
Some good beef that night.
This is where you can see how we take the buildings apart.
Okay.
We start, like, this is southeast, so we start down there and we go 1 southeast, 2 southeast, 3. And
she's got pieces of canvas that have the markings on it as far as 1 southeast or whatever, and it's put in with roofing nails. And then that's all taken apart. You know, all the grout, of course, is taken out. That's all taken apart, taken down, and brought here to Old Trail Town. And then and of course, pictures, hundreds of pictures are taken of the structure as they're taking it down. And then when they bring it here, they can look at the pictures, they can look at the designation on the log, and they'll know exactly where to put it. Okay.
So kind of like Lincoln Logs.
Yes.
The crib that we're walking into now is more than half again larger than it used to be, but because we're a museum, we have to have the wheelchair access and all of that.
Okay.
So it was probably only maybe this big at one point.
Okay, so about 10 by 10.
Yeah, not much bigger than that.
And of course, you've got a bed in here, and you've got a wash station so the cowboys can tidy up and shave.
That's a chamber pot.
Okay.
With the lid on there, that's the indoor.
An indoor chamber pot. Nice big rat trap.
I found that in the barn a while back. I had to put it in here.
pair of cowboy boots with the spurs still attached for quick getaway.
The spurs, the hat, the chaps, the saddlebags, those all belong to our general manager, Bob Logan.
Oh, okay.
So
what was he doing at Rosie's?
I don't know. But this coat, it's a leather coat, but it represents slicker.
Right.
Because in those days, in the lower end brothels, they would put a slicker across the foot of the bed because the cowboys didn't always take their boots off.
Oh, really? That's kind of an interesting little fact.
And that's a rope bed that was given to us by a local friend.
And is there a way to tighten those ropes so that you can sleep tight?
There is. There's a key, they call it, so that you can see on this end where the rope loops
Right.
around. You can put this key in there. It's just a big piece of wood, and turn it, and then stretch the rope up a little bit, and then move on to the next one and turn it. So yeah, it's a rope tightener.
Okay. And that's where sleep tight comes from?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. And this here must be the parlor part of Rosie's?
That's her bedroom.
Okay.
And that's another rope bed that we were given by local friends. We found that little parlor stove in storage here in Old Trail Town.
Okay.
And over the winter, scraped that down and re-oiled it. If you open the front doors there, you can put your like tea kettle or something in there. So it's
Oh,
this
really?
little oven. The bottom part, you put your coal or your wood.
Right.
And then you can cook on top. You can bake in there. So it's just
So it's like a
real bitty
warming
stove.
oven or wow, that's really
Right.
cool. And then you've got a vanity with some nice mirrors on it and a little old curling iron, a lamp,
Yeah,
and
everything.
a sitting chair. And
Everything that we think would have been comfortable back then, it wasn't an expensive establishment. So let's go in here. Oh, sorry, Linda. Come on in.
Didn't want to miss out.
So this is the painting by Larry Edgar,
oh, okay, of the woman in blue, yes.
Oh, yeah.
and that's
And when they found her,
Gallagher and Blind Bill Houlihan.
and when they found her, she was still in a blue dress. That's
Right.
the reason that they call her the
Right.
lady in blue.
And when they were taking the structure down, in the chinking, they found these pieces of blue dress.
Oh, really?
Wow.
And whether it was one of hers or not, we don't know, but that was found in the chinking. So
Now,
we
I've
thought
seen a
that was-
picture with a little piece of the actual blue dress down in the corner.
Oh,
Yeah, we did see that.
okay. So,
I won't say where I've seen that, but I
Okay.
have seen it.
huh?
Yeah, I don't know where either.
This was the roadhouse part.
Okay, and
she
the
would have had-
roadhouse is when people were coming through on stagecoach or
Right.
traveling, they
Come
were
in
able
and
to.
she would feed them. She'd have a little bar in the corner. That stove also we found in storage, just total rust, and we got that scraped up and brought in.
It's a nice looking old majestic stove.
And then the little ice box there
Okay.
against the north wall.
That's cool.
And
Yeah, that's probably one of the smallest ice boxes I've seen.
Yeah.
The oak ice boxes. The actual box is probably only 12 inches deep and 14 by 14 or 16 by 16. Usually the ice boxes that I've seen stand about 4.5, 5 foot tall and are 3 foot wide.
yeah, but
That's
they wouldn't
really a
have.
cute little piece.
They wouldn't have. This is where the ice goes.
Yep. And the ice goes in the top because cold travels down.
And it drips down.
And it drips down, yes. And you've
So
got a lot of the
this-
old cans of spices and baking soda and that type of stuff for cooking.
And we have a honey pot here. And this is the only thing that was ever found at Arland intact.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
So
Now, when she's talking honey pot, she's talking about one that you would put honey in, not a honey pot like what a lot of people call
this is for syrup or
dry
honey.
trade. Right.
So it has a little spout on it. So we're very, very happy to have that. That was given to us a while back.
A bedpan is more what I've
Oh, I see what
referred
you're
to as a honey pot.
I was afraid of what you were going to say.
There you go. I was trying to work on that while you were showing me this piece.
That's funny.
So we're pretty pleased with this.
Oh, this has turned out
This setup
just
thing.
awesome.
And we'll probably add, more here and there as we go along, as we find things.
And where did this cabin come from? I know that it came from Arland, but
Originally in Arland, and then she moved it 7 miles southeast toward Meeteetse
Okay.
on the freight line that has just been built through.
Okay.
So it was on the junction, freight line junction, and she moved it down there. And that's when she added the back portion of it so that this could be the roadhouse and she could service the stagecoaches and the freighters.
Okay.
Okay.
That's you have to wonder how they moved a building back in those days.
Back then, they probably just took it down, took the logs down there, and then just built it as they could. Because as the guys were reconstructing this, even though we had marked where the logs were, every once in a while they would realize that, oh no, this log, actually it was the one that should have been over here.
Oh.
So it took quite a bit of finagling. You can see up there where there's some chop lines that lost a log here and there.
Okay.
This was used as a cow barn and calf shed for decades, so it was
in
total
bad
disaster.
shape. Wow.
Yeah, just dirt, manure, floor. The bricks; these are the original bricks.
Okay.
Because this isn't
fireplace.
unusual to have a double chimney like that.
That's really cool. And that's how she had it?
That's original, and you can see in the pictures that they took before they deconstructed the building that you can see where this is in the door and
Wow.
the window.
It's really cool.
It is.
Love it.
This is really neat. You guys have done a fantastic job here of
Oh, thank you.
recreating.
Thank you very much. So, and then some of the information over here, that's a city license for,
From CODY?
no,
From Tombstone. Okay. And it's signed by Deputy Marshal Wyatt Earp.
that was his third wife, or whether they were married or not, Josephine Earp.
Okay.
And she was a brothel owner. So, and we put in, the opium pipes, pills, those sorts of things that the girls, laudanum bottles,
Right.
to help them through their life.
It is. Tombstone's a pretty cool place too.
I have never been there. And this is just a little bit about Belle Drury and how she was dying. And Tahanas, the gal she accused of doping her, was never seen again.
Oh, really?
So nobody knows if she went back to the reservation. Nobody knows if she was killed by the cowboys who wanted to avenge Belle's death. She's just never, ever,
Heard from again.
never.
Wow.
And this was fun to come up with the hierarchy of brothels, from the very nice parlor house down to the streetwalkers. So Rosie's was somewhere toward the lower end.
Right. This is really nice display.
Thank you.
And this one you just barely opened.
Yep, we opened it to the public May 15th.
Okay. I think I called you sometime around then to try and set this up, and you were saying you were having a big party that day.
Yeah, we were crazy. Yeah, it was. We have a free open house, and then the Saturday following, we had a big party, invited guests for the opening of Rosie's.
Okay. And then we come over here, and we've got a couple of other, what looks like the headstones in the cemetery.
This just a monument to John Coulter, Jim Bridger, and a few of the other
mountain men that were instrumental in the area. And John Coulter, he was kind of the guy that did a lot of the explorations in Yellowstone Park and stuff, and they referred to the area as Coulter's Hell.
Right, and that official area is just beyond the rodeo grounds there to the west of us.
Okay.
And that's Coulter's Hell.
Okay.
This was put up by the Yellowstone Mountain Men.
Okay. And then you've got Jedediah Smith, a plaque to him, and to George Drouillard,
Yeah. he was local.
and Old Gabe, Jim Bridger. And Jim Bridger was really instrumental in this area too. The old Bridger Trail comes right by here. And it went from Where?
Well, it had-
Denver area on up to Virginia
Well,
City, Montana?
In several areas, because there's Bridger Trading Post on the west side of Wyoming too.
Yeah, Bridger, Fort Bridger.
Yeah. There you
Yeah,
go.
that was the trading post, and that's
Right,
kind
so
of where
he
where several of the trails separated. The
He
Mormon
was
Trail.
all
and
over the area, and we took in 1990 Wyoming Centennial. We took a group got together and we did a wagon train, 30-day
Okay.
wagon train from Casper to CODY, and we went on the Jim Bridger Trail.
On the Jim Bridger Trail.
So,
And now Jim Bridger's buried in Independence, Missouri. And if you ever go looking for his grave, we spent about 2 hours driving around the doggone cemetery, and it was stupid of us because when we finally found it, it's a headstone that's probably 7 foot tall, and it's in a little tiny triangle, and you can drive around it 100 times and not realize what it is until you, yeah, it was. We had several interesting experiences in the Independence, Missouri area. We went to the World War I Museum, and we were following our GPS. And our GPS told us to turn up this driveway, and when we did, we ended up on the walking trail that went around the grounds with no place to turn around, so we had to drive for a mile
on a walking trail.
on a stupid walking trail with people having to get off the trail because we're
laughing.
I was embarrassed as all get out, but that's my life. I spend half my life embarrassed. So.
But look at the adventures you have.
Oh yeah. Yeah, always something to talk about.
So this was the Mud Springs cabin. This was one used by Sundance Kid in planning to go to Red Lodge for a robbery.
Okay.
So this is another building that's connected. This one we're just, this outer room here where you have all of these saddles, we're just developing this display. So we'll have labels on the different types of saddles that there are. Saddle makers equipment. We'll put things like shaps and saddlebags and things like that.
You've got a couple of side saddles in here. You don't see them real often. That's a real interesting one. It's got 2 horns that almost, if you were looking straight onto it, would almost look like cow horns. But both of your stirrups are on the one side, but the seat sits like a normal saddle. Usually when you see a side saddle, they sit kind of lopsided.
Well, the different one, the thing that's different about this too is it doesn't have that brace for your lower leg.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's a real interesting looking side saddle.
but yet when you sit on them, you know, with your legs all cocked off to one side, you would think you would be out of balance,
Right.
but you're more in balance then because you're forced to sit upright.
Okay. Yeah, my daughter's got a side saddle that she's ridden on a few different times.
Oh, yeah?
In fact, I watched her jump her horse with a side saddle, and I was pretty impressed. But
That would be
yeah,
scary.
I would have thought, but she was young and dumb and ready to show off some
Come on
skills,
in.
I guess.
More saddles.
Yeah.
We have something upwards of 60 saddles in town.
Wow.
And some buildings, like this one, the granary, this is strictly storage right now.
Okay.
We have a couple of them like that eventually I'd like to get cleaned out and use as proper storage or put a display in there.
And then this one here, you've got storage with several wagons,
Right,
more of the doctor's buggy, just going to town buggy type wagons.
The one clear in back, that's the Wiley Yellowstone Company. That's
Okay.
number 37
Oh,
of
really?
the wagons that used to go into Yellowstone Park.
And take tourists.
And when we close for the season, we're taking that out of here and trying to put that in the barn because just last year we were able to acquire number 38 coach.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we'll have both coaches, consecutive numbers.
Uh-huh.
And I don't.
That had to have been a long trip from here to Yellowstone.
Oh
in
yeah,
a wagon.
several stops.
Yes.
And this is the cabin that we have the photographs of the burials.
Okay. And so,
So you can see,
wow.
you know, the.
Check this out. Yeah, they've got all the photographs of Blind Bill and Gallagher in their coffins from when they found them, and the reburial of Jack Stillwell and Jeremiah Johnson with the 7th grade students, and Robert Redford being a pallbearer. Wow, this is really neat. A lot of history. The reburial of Jim White. All that was left of him was some bones.
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah.
That is too cool.
Been...
And then you've got some letters over here.
Yeah, different letters of, like this one, especially William Blind Bill Houlihan.
Uh-huh.
And talking about he knows he's going to die, but death has no fear for me.
Wow. Yeah, this is really cool. And it's amazing the handwriting back then. I mean...
It was so elaborate, and even these... it's beautiful handwriting, even the mountain men or the cowboys.
Yeah.
You know, they had beautiful script.
I think there was something to a 3rd grade education back in the day.
Yeah, you made them do it.
I know my grandma said that she only made it to like 7th grade or 8th grade or something, but she was a smart woman.
Just read books, research. This is Rice Ranch Commissary, Wood River, again outside of Meeteetse, store, bunkhouse, and right now this is just another one of our large storage buildings. This one needs a lot of work. The back end of it is collapsing because when buildings were originally brought here, you can see they were just put on rock foundations.
Uh-huh.
And those tend to collapse over the years.
Okay.
This one is, the employees call this the dollhouse because you can see a dollhouse through this window.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool. Now, we've been to a couple of different miniature museums and done podcasts. Those are amazing.
I love miniature museums.
Yeah. Have you ever been to the one in Tucson?
No.
Yeah, Tucson.
No, I went to Knott's Berry Farm in California.
Oh,
they had
okay.
a marvelous.
They've got
huge-
another one in Roswell, New Mexico that's really amazing too. Lots of really cool stuff. But
And this was just a regular homestead cabin. Very small, raised their children in there, you know.
how many kids?
They had at least a couple, I believe. Morrison, I believe, had 3.
I was going to say a lot of these families in these little tiny cabins had,
You know,
yeah.
how many you had, this is where you lived. But there's a beautiful organ in here, buffet.
Oh, and you've got a high chair with a little china set on it. And
A little hobby horse.
oh, now that's really
For the
cool. A little
kids.
rocking horse that has a seat in between and the little horses on both sides. Yeah.
And just the remains of a trapper's cabin. Look at the size of the logs on that thing.
Yeah. And when you're going across Wyoming, you don't see a lot of logs in a lot of places.
No.
I mean, you got to
They
get
have
up
to
into
be
the mountains. It makes you wonder how far they had to carry some of these.
Yeah. This was actually the mayor's cabin, the first mayor of CODY, not with doors like this, but
Right.
this was where on the back lot of where the chamber is right now.
Oh, okay.
CODY Chamber of
Right there
Commerce.
by the park.
Right, because that's the CODY Chamber is part of the TE Ranch buildings.
Okay.
So this was behind there in its original configuration. That's where the mayor was. And Mary Jester Allen, who created the Buffalo Bill Museum there,
Okay.
cut this doorway and used it as her garage
oh,
for her Model T or A or whatever it was.
well, yeah, you might as well.
So that's storage also right now.
Huh.
And this is our wagon barn. This structure was built by Bob Edgar to
Okay.
house some of our more precious wagons rather than have them outside.
Oh, wow. This is really cool. You've got a couple of wicker sleighs. I didn't know that they made sleighs out of wicker.
And that's an ice wagon, water wagon, a lot of buggies.
Yes, a lot of buggies. A sheep wagon that doesn't have the top on it, so you can see what the sheep wagon would look like
What
on
we're
the
doing
inside.
here, that one didn't have the top on it either, and we just had that covered.
Uh-huh.
And so we're going to leave this one uncovered, and we'll put mirrors on the back side of the
Okay.
strats there so that people can see inside the sheep wagon and see what actually was in there, you know, the stove. And
The original motorhome.
yes, this was an elite
Okay.
sheep wagon. And then we've got this one back here, which we will cover in the coming year.
Okay.
It's a newer one. But,
And you got a big picture of Bob Edgar over here.
and this is our number 38 coach.
Okay.
So when we get number 37 out, we'll
Have it sitting there next to it. Now, are your plans to restore this back to original or
No.
just leave it the way it is?
This has never been restored. This is original.
Okay.
We're not going to paint it or varnish it or anything. This is original.
Wow. And if
So
you
we
want to
think
see a
that's-
restored one, I think that there's one in the Thermopolis County Museum, the Hot Springs
Oh,
County
okay.
Museum. They've got one that's all
Okay.
painted up yellow and stuff.
Right, and sometimes they do repaint them, you know, put new leather on and everything. But to me, that kind of takes away the history of it.
Yeah.
This is pure history because it's all
It's all
original.
just the way it was.
And the number 37 doesn't have the running gear, so we'll just put that on sawhorses here so they can see the two consecutive
You
coaches.
couldn't see that it didn't have the running gear when you were looking back there.
No, but it's sitting right now on some wagon undercarriage that doesn't belong to it.
Okay. And lots of just buggies, like going to town buggies or buckboards or whatever. Neat old chest in the back of that
And
buggy.
this is
It almost
an
takes up the
original
whole back.
bar. If we like our end of the season party,
Oh,
we'll have.
and where'd the bar come from?
I don't know.
Okay. I was wondering if it was a historic.
It is historic, but I couldn't tell you. What I can show you about it, though, is and of course the buffalo.
Oh, yes,
Clear back in
full
the
mounted
corner
buffalo
here.
back here in the corner that you don't see. And that's a heck of a buck hanging on the wall, too.
So this was their, you know, their cash register area.
Right.
But this is where the bartender kept his gun.
Okay.
So he didn't have baseball bat or anything. He kept his gun in
Kept
that.
his gun in a little holster
Yep.
that sits underneath the bar.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
So we're able to use this when we have, you know, in-town parties.
You got a cash register down there, too. Wow.
There's things
This
like
is
that.
really a nice barn.
There's things like that all over Old Trail Town. Whatever trunk you look in, there's something fun to find.
Bob was quite the collector.
Yes, he was. He never turned anything down.
You got a couple of ox yokes.
An awful lot of tack.
You know what amazes me about like these water wagons is that they were able to cut those boards at a bevel to where when they put them together, they were able to fill it full of water, have it swell and be
Yeah.
watertight.
Yeah, yeah, you can see the bevel on it like you're talking about.
Yeah, it's just amazing that you can make a wood barrel and make it hold like
It was
that.
really surprising what they could make back then.
Actually, what they did make, because I think the reproduction in our day and age would be pretty hard to do. You know, I guess we went to Jack Daniels at one point in time down in Tennessee,
Yeah.
and they have a barrel making factory in there
Oh,
where
yeah.
they make their own whiskey barrels. And it's quite a process between the building it at just the right angle and getting your bands tight and then smoking them and all of that kind of stuff. It was
And
it
do
was
they
pretty
do
interesting.
they have modern equipment to do that? Or
Oh
are they
yeah.
Still, okay.
Oh yeah. It's
so,
they're building hundreds of those.
So think how many days it would take to build a barrel nowadays with that, or back then in that configuration.
With a hand plane
Yeah,
and
yep.
a hand saw. Yeah, it's just amazing what they were able to do.
This is just another wagon
Another
storage.
blacksmith shop built in Matitsi, about
Yeah,
1898.
There's a hearse back there.
Okay, is that another hearse? You have two hearses here?
We have a hearse in the museum.
Okay, I was going to say I love the old hearse. they're amazing, amazing. Again, craftsmen.
Yeah.
Built the hearse, and they put so much detail into.
Oh, the one in the museum is just really elaborate.
Yes.
So just more. One day it would be really nice to clean one of those out more and set it up as a blacksmith shop, so
Right.
people could see.
And have a working blacksmith in there.
And burn the place down? No.
This is a McCullough cabin.
The man, Peter McCullough, the McCullough Peaks are named after him.
Okay.
Out here just east of town.
Okay.
He worked for the Carter Cattle Company. This was the Carter, we had called this the Carter cabin for years and years. And then did a little bit more research and found it really should be called the McCullough cabin because Carter was never out here in it. This was for McCullough and his men.
Okay.
Is this related at all to the rock barn? It used to be out in McCullough Peaks. It's not there anymore.
I don't know if McCullough had his hand in that one or not. I really couldn't tell you.
It's an amazing barn.
And it's not there anymore? I saw it years and years ago.
I think there's still some rock
stones.
foundation and stuff,
But the wood part is...
Oh, that's always sad to lose that sort of thing, which is where these buildings would have been if
Right,
Bob hadn't
exactly.
been able to bring them here.
And like we were saying on the other side, it's so cool that you can see this history of places that you've been in Wyoming, and yet, it's all here.
And this is the Museum of the Old West, which was put up by the Phelps family. And the land that it's on and the building itself, they owned. It was here at Old Trail Town, but they purchased that from Bob and built this
Really?
to put in the displays, the cased displays. And when Bob Edgar was selling Old Trail Town, a couple came in and wanted to buy it from him. When he was selling it, this wasn't part of the deal. And that other business transaction went south. So the Museum of the Old West always had a foundation board, Museum of the Old West Foundation. They got together and they purchased Old Trail Town. So now it's Museum of the Old West doing business as Old Trail Town.
How awesome is that?
Yeah.
Kind of glad the first one didn't go
They saved the
through.
town. They really did save the town.
That is cool. Yeah, sometimes when that stuff goes into private hands, it doesn't become available to the public.
Right. And we're nonprofit. We don't take grants.
Wow.
We don't have any other funding.
You've got a lot of taxidermy in here. You've got a golden eagle. You've got several antelope, moose, another golden eagle. How many golden eagles? Now that I've seen two, there's another one over there. So you've got some saddles and some firearms, a lot of arrowheads, mammoth tusks.
The canoe up there is from the Lewis and Clark era. It was found on the Yellowstone River. Somebody called, I want to think how that story went. Somebody called Bob Edgar and said, I think there's this historical canoe up there. It was being used as a flower bed.
Oh, really?
At the time it was found, yeah. So he brought it down here, but it was found, what does it say, 8 miles under River Rock?
20 miles east of Billings. It doesn't say how deep it was. Yeah, under 8 feet of Yellowstone River gravel.
So it was on the river where Lewis and Clark would have been traveling with a hole in it. Yeah, it's not going to go anywhere else, so they just abandoned things like that.
Wow. Then you've got Jim White's gun and a big buffalo skull. Man, that's a big buffalo skull.
Mm-hmm.
And some other firearms. Lots of firearms. Knock yoke. Some leather working tools. Another one of those side saddles with the strange horns again.
Got
it's
a
just
couple
like
of
that.
those.
Yeah. Couple of coats, buffalo hide coats, and some chaps.
At this point, we try to, accept everything. Sometimes we run out of room and have to get creative to try to display it. Other times we'll put it in storage and switch out a display.
Right.
So objects can rest and new objects can be out.
You've got a couple of wagons here that are hooked up together. They would train some of these wagons, and they would pull them a lot of times with a water container on the back to water your animals.
Yep. Yes, sir.
And those old teamsters would haul several wagons at a time.
With, 4, 6, 8, 10 up.
You're right, of horses. You've got a picture of a 8 up there, yeah. Pulling the 2 wagons that you have the models of here.
Yeah, Nick Egenhofer built the models.
Okay.
He's the local artist.
There's something that's kind of interesting about these. When they'd hook these wagons up together, they'd always leave slack in them so that they'd get the first one rolling, and then it would hit the next one, and then it would hit the next one, and that way they could keep the momentum going when they took off.
Okay.
You've got a stagecoach over here with a buffalo coat, and the stagecoach is just a model, but shows what they would look like. And then we get to the hearse. I love the hearse.
And it has a coffin in it.
Oh, it does. Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
It's got glass on the side, very elaborate carvings. It's just a beautiful piece.
Yeah, I love the way they carved the sides to look like windows with the drapes pulled back.
It's just amazing, the woodwork that they did.
People need to come and look at it.
They do. They do. They definitely need to come experience this. This is a place that you need to experience. Just being able to walk through all the old cabins, looking at things. You got a nice Native American display here. And this was a collection from Effie Shaw.
Local woman.
Local collector.
Yeah, most everything in here is local.
Okay.
This arrowhead display here by Randy Kruger. He had a book called The Packer Boy. He grew up outside of Meeteetse on a ranch, married a ranch gal, and he just recently passed away. We're very sad about that. But he was a good friend to Old Trail Town and to Bob Edgar. And he loaned his collection to us.
And you've got several metal points in here as well as the flint and the stone
and
points.
A hide scraper.
Yes.
And an axe
and lots of Native American clothing, saddles.
And this saddle is much more beautiful than the one in Curly's cabin. Still just as hard to sit on, but.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be hard to get your leg over the top of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess once you were set in, it didn't matter what the horse was doing, you were going to stay in.
Probably, yeah.
High back, high front. Yeah.
Sticks you in there.
A couple of the papooses or cradles and just lots of really cool. Oh, check that out. There's a war shield and it's got a bald eagle head on the front of it. An actual bald eagle head. It's not something that's painted on there. You got some trade guns. No,
these are all authentic. And you know why the buffalo skulls have the hole in the skull, right?
Let me take a guess. I'm not really sure, but they did a lot of brain tanning.
That's exactly right.
And I'm assuming that the brains were taken out to tan the hide.
You're exactly right.
And I've heard said that there is that every animal has enough brains to tan their hide. So when your mom said, "I'm going to tan your hide," it meant a lot more than just getting a spanking.
I'll have to remember that for my great-grandchildren.
There you go. Yeah, and then you've got some natural settings. You've got a bighorn sheep skull in amongst some rocks where it would look like you'd find it out in the prairie. And same thing with the buffalo.
Yeah, this is kind of, Bob put this together. He was an archaeologist too, so this is special for him.
And here lies, I can't read what his name is, but it's a stone that's got a little carving in it. Probably something like what you would have picked up off of the Oregon Trail. as far as a little carved headstone. Mm-hmm. And it says 1811 on one of them. Wow. This is just an amazing room. You could spend a little bit of time in here looking at everything.
And it's nice in the summertime because it always stays cool.
That is awesome.
In the Burlington store, this is another one that would have been brought here intact because it's stick built, not log.
Okay.
So you can't take these stick built buildings down and put them back up. It just destroys them.
So they got to be hauled in one piece. Mm-hmm. Okay, and Burlington again is another small town. There's what, probably 300. Well, there must be more than that because they've got a school there. So maybe 400 or 500
area.
people.
Yeah, probably.
Farming community on the Graybull River. I'm sure it was a stage stop at one point in time.
Oh, I'm sure.
And it's full of taxidermy in here. You've got an old-time chuck wagon. Those are always fun to look at, the way that they had those set up with places to cook and
they'd put the canvas up
right
off of the back so they
fly.
could cook. Mm-hmm.
Yep, so that you can get in and out of the shade. There's a grease bucket on the side to grease your wheels. A couple of saddles here.
Yeah, no, that's one of the McClellan saddles.
Yes. And some other dug up guns. Have you been to the Dug Up Gun Museum?
I have, yeah.
That's a pretty cool place.
And that under there, that's a big, huge oven.
Oh, it is huge. That thing's probably 3 foot by 3 foot.
And I don't know if that was hauled along with the wagon. It's so huge, I just can't hardly imagine it. But, who knows?
Camp cooks were pretty ingenuitive as far as being able to make do with what they had and make
I love chuck wagons. I think they're just special.
They really are. You've got a full-mounted elk, a full-mounted bighorn sheep, a full-mounted moose.
We'd
saddles.
We'd have a bull buffalo mount given to us last year. It's in storage now because we're going to put it on that back wall here in the Burlington store. But the problem is none of this stuff can move out of any of the doors. We don't really know how Bob got everything in here.
Especially since they didn't have it disassembled and you could assemble it around it.
Yeah, so we don't really know. So we got to think about that over the winter and figure out what we're going to do.
Wow. You've got a big picture of a branding and some shaps and scabbards. Just a lot of neat stuff in here.
Yeah, got a lot of branding irons. Mm-hmm. And this is again the Larson Ranch down there where Randy Kruger grew up. So a lot of this is from the Larson Ranch.
Okay. Wow.
So going around, walking around here, and I say we want to do this and we want to do that. There's a never-ending supply of projects that we want to do here at Old Trail Town.
I'm amazed at what all you've done since I was last here. I mean, yeah. And of course, I'm sure funding and some of that's kind of hard.
We're self-supported.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
funding is
just through our admissions.
Right. And then, of course, COVID took a big hit on all the museums.
Yeah, it did. We were down a year, but then we came right back up.
That's good. Wow, this is an interesting place.
We've just put these gates up now, and you've seen some of the ropes in other areas, and we'll replace those with these fences and gates. Because unfortunately, people want to touch everything.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes we're missing things. So that's why we don't allow backpacks in the museum anymore. And I call Old Trail Town a museum because it is an outdoor museum.
Oh, yes.
Everything here. So, but I don't think these fences take away from anything.
I don't either.
See, where they played cards, the piano.
What was this building?
This is and was the River Saloon.
And where was it at?
It was down out of Wood River also.
Oh, okay. And in here you've got bright red wallpaper that comes down into a wainscoting of a little bit darker color wood. You've got a piano, you've got a bar, you've got a couple of cash registers, you've got a couple of poker tables with cards laid out.
And the prerequisite painting on the wall.
Oh yes, you've got an angel holding up a mirror in front of a naked lady that it just shows her face.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But you get the idea. And then you got, that's Bob there, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, you got a nice frame picture of Bob. Yeah, this is, and the big bar. Where'd the bar came from there also, or?
I believe so, yeah.
This is really cool. Nice saloon setup.
Thank you. Come on in. There you go.
I need to say we've been working around a lot of people here. This place is actually very busy. She said that you had 200 people here last weekend or something that were all in one group.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we get groups in July. The Blue Knights International Motorcycle Group Law
Okay.
Enforcement Club. They're going to have 215 people here, and I've asked them not to all come at once because that's quite a bit. But they'll
Yes.
be here. This is second to last building that was put up. This was in Meeteetse. It had been built onto the walls, covered with board and wallpaper.
And when you're talking wallpaper, are you talking canvas that they had printed that they stretched over the wall so that it looks smooth?
At one point, but then people had still been living in here, so they kept
Oh.
modernizing it and modernizing it.
Okay.
And then then part of it burned. You can see
Okay.
some of the darker logs there. And when it burned, then they wanted to get rid of it. So we went down and took off the modern construction of it.
Okay.
And this is what was left of the original. This was the original McNally building.
Okay.
And brought that up, and we went ahead and put it on cement.
Concrete slab.
So this will be last a lot longer than if we had tried to put it on original rock foundation.
And you've got a lot of pictures of the old founders and stuff here in CODY area.
Right. A lot of the madams, a lot of the, we've got business owners up here besides
Ranch
women.
owners.
These are the strong women of CODY.
Oh, okay. I hadn't put it all together that it was all women, but yes. Okay.
Yeah, Carolyn Lockhart, Olive Fell was an artist.
Right. Wow.
And then this is the Arlen cabin, the one I was telling you that Bob actually lived in for a time.
Right. The first one we talked about.
And this is just really cased displays again.
Okay. You've got several muzzle loading firearms and
Another side saddle.
another side saddle. Wow, look at the fenders on that. That is. Then you got a big bear trap.
Yeah, people kind of rearrange things once in a while.
Do they? So you end up having to rearrange things
Yeah.
a lot, huh?
Yeah.
I've noticed as we've gone through, you've had to move things around a little
Yeah.
bit here and there. Picture of Jeremiah Johnson on the wall. Again, some more taxidermy. That's a big goat.
Yeah.
Antelope.
And some of this stuff, Lucille Moon Hall, she was up the North Fork, one of our famous characters of CODY.
Okay.
And this is her things.
Okay. Well, this has been just absolutely fascinating. This is our last building,
This
right?
is the last building. The residence that Bob then built here. He lived in that, and then the far building is the one where our boardroom and offices are. And then that was from a dude ranch outside of Meeteetse, and then he connected them. His daughters lived in
Okay.
there, so the bedrooms are between. So that's where our general manager lives.
Okay.
So he's 24 hours here. It's quite a
Watching.
job for him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, this is just
So-
amazing. You guys have a website?
we do. oldtrailtown.org.
oldtrailtown.org. And if somebody wanted to send money your way, they could do that?
Anytime.
Wow, you'll accept it, huh?
We will.
That's great. And you guys are open from 8 to 6 every day.
7 days a week, May 15th through September 30th.
Okay. And as you're coming through CODY, you need to kind of keep your eyes open for your sign, because you sit back off of the highway. You can see the rodeo grounds and the big parking lot and all that. You're just before that on your way to Yellowstone. It would be on the north side of the highway. And
Watch
it's
for
just
our billboard. We've got Bob Edgar on a billboard
right.
pointing in. That's right by CODY Cattle Company.
Okay, and you've got another one advertising for you that's just right up there by the airport as you're
Correct.
coming into town.
Yep.
But this is an amazing place. I appreciate you taking your time with me today and walking me through this, Sylvia. This has been absolutely fantastic. And I always finish out my podcast by saying, the world is full of wonder. People need to get out and explore. You can spend a lot of time exploring this. So everybody have an absolutely wonder-filled day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
All the roll and go, where am I to go? Meet Johnny, where am I to go? For I'm a young and a sailor lad, and where am I to go?